Blog Talk Radio.
This is my version of the Nobel Peace Prize. That's why I'm coming out my face like this. Far as negativity, you never get this. If it wasn't for you, nobody would know. That's why this is some for the radio. Dedicated to the radio DJs to play all the hits on 7 days. And even on the weekends, the DJs will be freaking without a doubt because everyone is unique. And the way they cut the records and be talking, it sounds due to extra crazy death on a Walkman. To all of this jockeys that's on the go, this is some for the radio. And this is for the radio. And this is for the radio. Requesting my records on the radio. Greatly appreciate what you've done for me. And my reward to you is my MUSIC. Straight up, I make the music just for you, so you can do the extra crazy bit small dance too, or even do the dance made up by yourself. As long as you use your good physical health, because you're the one that make the radio hype, like fresh tobacco and a brand new pipe. Our program director always pick the right hits, like putting some salt and pepper and butter on grit. I always look up the program directors, cause they're the ones the jam selected. A couple of years ago when I didn't have a record playing on the radio, I thought to myself saying, if I ever get the chance to play it myself, I'm gonna make everything extra tough, cause radio will last to infinity, as long as my name is the B-I-Z, ever the A-R-K, and I'm here to say, #1 entertainment source in it like USA, cause if it wasn't for you, nobody would know, that's why this is something for the radio. Just the beginning of hip-hop on the radio and its never-ending story and fighting just to get the right and have our respect on a station that's exciting. In about 2 years, I will be a superstar, be able to buy anything I want, even a car, cause if it wasn't for you, nobody would know. That's why this is something for the radio. You know, I just like to say it like this.
Welcome to Civil Alert Rising. This is your host, Asha. Thank you so much for connecting back with us on this lovely Thursday night. This evening, we are going to discuss the Moorish roots of Mormonism and the Utah experience. And we have here with us Funtayus-El. Many of you may not be familiar with the name, but I am sure that you saw the video on YouTube that circulated. The first time I saw the video, I believe it was back in April, if I'm not mistaken. But today, as we speak, the video has over 8.3 million views. And the title of that video was 5 Police Officers versus a Law-Knowing Citizen. The key thing about that video is that it demonstrated what happened when the police detained Funtayus' son, and it demonstrates how he stood on his square and his knowledge of jurisprudence and the historical gems that were dropped in regards to his Moorish history. From looking at the commentary on the video, you will see that all types of people from all different walks of life, they pretty much, left their expressions in regards to how they felt that it was a triumph for everyone or anyone that has ever been violated. And then also, too, it was an eye-opener for those who may have heard of the word Moor, but maybe through discrepancies as far as like how Moors are depicted throughout history and how they're described in certain texts, they pretty much didn't put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So Funtayus will be on to provide more insight about his revelations, his research, and his experience with the folks in Utah. One thing that I have found is that when you are really dealing with truth, the universe reveals it at strange times from a multitude of different places and from different people. I feel so passionate about this topic because I was doing some research some time back, and I was reading about how the Mormons had said that Joseph Smith had found, and they had some prophets that they, honor, and they had found some golden brass plates in upstate New York inside of a mound, and on these brass plates, it had a whole bunch of different hieroglyphs on them. And it was from the transliteration of those hieroglyphs which provided the foundation of the Book of Mormon. And then one day when I was looking in an old Urdu dictionary, and Urdu is one of the ancient languages along with Sanskrit, coming up out of Hindustan, which is now known as India, I saw the word Musalman, and I saw the word Moor in the dictionary, and then after that I saw Mormon. So I said, hold up. I said, something is going on here. And, I had to reflect back, and I remember speaking with a lady out of Hindustan, and she did bear witness to say that, yes, the Moors look like the people in the Andaman Islands, and the people from the Andaman Islands, you would swear they were from the Congo. So I said, oh, these are the real Moor men. And then it gets a little deeper, y'all. We all see the variations in the different spelling of Moor. You would see M-O-O-R, M-U-R-R. But as you would see with the Mormons, it's M-O-R. Well, there's something special about that because M-O-R is the word that's found in the Aramaic as well as the Syriac dictionaries, and that is a title of nobility. And it's usually applied to the prophets and to the messengers and to the people who have really contributed and did a lot to help people. And it's also the title for a bishop. So when you do the research, you will see Moor Gabriel that would be present. And before the word saint was used, Moor was used everywhere. So with that said, I would like to bring Funtayus on so that he can provide much more insight.
Islam, and peace and blessings to everybody that's listening right now, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I'd like to give much praise to Noble Jawal Lee and Taj Tariq Bey for bringing me the information that I have, for Sister Anaid, Sister Raj Mariah Bey, and for people like yourself for even caring enough and risking everything you have, because we actually already risked it if we don't stand up for ourselves. I appreciate this opportunity.
You are welcome, Islam Funtayus. I am happy to have you here. Even though we have not met face to face, I feel like I've known you forever. And in our conversations, I pretty much have seen that video was just the result of some activity that had been going on for a long time. So if we can just begin by talking a bit about where exactly were you when everything transpired? And let's start specifically with the name of the county.
Honestly, I was in Bonneville County, and a correction, it wasn't Utah, even though they try to make the street signs sound like they are in Utah. They try to mimic. It actually is Idaho territories, and that's where it started, Bonneville County. And Bonneville is, honestly, would describe a large plantation that in ancient times would have belonged to a Moor, especially in those cases between Utah over to Idaho or salt flats. And all of that land belonged to a Moor. That was his plantation. Mm-hmm. That's what it describes. And, you go further, you're talking about the name Moor, like Moor man. Everywhere you go in Idaho and in Utah, you're going to see a Masonic temple every 5 feet. And they all are built. Their temples are built much different than most temples you see, but they are built in the Moorish style, definitely. More than like maybe what you might find in the Byzantine Empire. And so when you start to research and you start to learn, especially you can go on YouTube right now, there's a story about, there's an old cartoon that Mormons used to put out. And they tell how they're sitting up in heaven and Lucifer is sitting in heaven with, the man they call Jesus, and they're discussing things. And Lucifer is actually trying to defend the people on earth and saying, they should be taught, the same thing that, everyone else should be taught that we know up here. And so because of that, he was cast out, and it says that whoever was with him was branded black. And that's where they get they have to place the black brand on us in order to steal our property and our legacy.
Wow.
So,
that is something, because I can recall when I heard a lecture by Taj, and he was speaking about the Bonneville being the name, of what they call the plantations and the houses. So when you have brought that up, I said, whoa, this is another puzzle. I mean, I should say a piece of the puzzle. So when you started noticing everything, because I noticed you said, and what about like the street names and like the overall makeup of the populace? Are more of the people from like England or Portugal, or what is there?
The majority of people might be Dutch, Holland, and a lot of them are Dutch. A lot of them are German. And I'll give everybody a key if they don't already know. If you want to learn your history, all you need to do is look at the signs, look at the street signs, and look up every word you see. Because when you're in the Idaho territories, those street signs and the names on buildings will give you your history. No different than the territory I live in now. You know, it'll start with the beginning history of the Moors all the way to Balata, Gagna, on down to the fall of the Moors in Granada. These are the street signs. They're always telling you your history. Just look up, lift your head up, and don't be so crestfallen, and you'll see everything if you go and research. They put it in front of your face. As a lot of old-timers would say, if it had been a snake, it would have bit you.
I hear you on that. I hear you. So what actually started the contention or the discomfort that the people in that area that they had with you?
Well, it started with we stayed there over a course of 3 years. And in that 3 years, we had a house. We stayed in a house each year. The first year we stayed in a house that, you know, that they claim is theirs, you know, belonging to a Mormon man. His name was Keith. You know, we stayed in the house. We rented the house from him, and we had a lease agreement with him. And he, for some strange reason, first of all, you have to understand how they operate. This image that, I'm not going to say everybody's the same way, but the ones I ran into, this image that they put forth or portray about being loving, caring individuals was not the case. If they found you weren't going to be submissive and do what they told you to do, or you weren't going to give up a 10% purse that they want from everyone that lives there. You know, I was renting the property from him, and some mornings I'll hear a rattle at the door. You know, it's an older home, and there would be like there's a door between a place where we kept our deep freezer, like a little walk-in area, and then and then the main door. And I would hear a jiggle, like someone was using a key. And at first I thought it was my wife, and I looked over, my wife there. It was using his key to come into our home just whenever. And the first time, you know, I'm a kind of person where I kind of follow a three-strike system sometimes. And I just want to see how far someone was. And so he came in the house, and I said, well, maybe I left it unlocked. And then, you know, maybe a week or so later, the same thing occurred. He just came on in, and he knocked on the second door. And I said, how did you get in here the first time? And he didn't say anything. He just talked over it. And the third time, you know, I stopped him, and I said, whoa, are you using the key to get in here? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, well, you know you shouldn't be doing that, man. I said, you know, that can get you injured, you know, because I don't know who you are. And he said, well, you know, I have the right to come in anytime I want to. This is my property. And he pointed to he kind of moved the curtains aside, and he pointed out of the window, and he was showing me that all my family lives here. You're surrounded by all of my family. He said, everyone over here is my family. And I said, I don't care who your family is, but we have a lease agreement, and you don't have the right to come in my home when I pay you whatever rents on time. You know, and I said, you don't have any problems out of me. You don't need to use a key to intrude upon my home. The home, that's burglary. And he said, it's not. It's mine. And I said, don't let it happen again. And, you know, point, he had a bad attitude about it. And, you know, it was a really eerie feeling. I'm like, you know, it really felt like I can do whatever I choose to. And I remember him calling one time, and he said something. He said, I'm really high up in the Mormon church. And, you know, I can make or break you in this town. And he really meant that. That's how he was portraying it to me. And I'm a person that I don't back down from people who wish to cause injury to me, especially when I know that I'm in the right. And, you know, time came around when our lease agreement was getting ready to come near an end. And, we were living on, I think it's maybe 10 acres. And I, you know, it was getting ready to come to an end. He says, he wanted to ask me, you know, about renewal, but he wanted renewals on certain conditions. And I didn't really feel comfortable about being there in the first place, but I wanted to first find another home. And once you start living in the area, you start to realize that when they're used to running things, they're used to everything being the way they want it to be. If you anger one of them, you're going to have all of them on you. Their churches are divided into postal codes, no different than it would be your child goes to public. If your son or daughter goes to public school, they may go in a particular zone. That's how they divide up the finance, and that's how they look at everything. They'll say, my cousin lives over here in this area, and they live. You can't go to this church or this particular temple because it's going to be over here in this postal code. But so he had some people come by and talk to me and tell me I need to calm down about how I looked at things. And he said, he had an old man come by and fix on something, and he said, I want to talk to you for a minute. And he said, Keith is a good man, and he really likes you, and he says you're the only colored friend that he has. And I said, I'm not colored. And he said, well, anyhow, if you're good, if you're good and act right and carry yourself better than you've been carrying yourself, he'll have a place in heaven for you. And I said, what do you mean? Please explain yourself. And he said, well, they believe that anyone they pass in life, the reason why they get more wives is because those wives will give them a bounty of harvest of children, and anyone they pass in life who they may brand black will be their servant. And any European who is not of their religious belief will be branded a servant as well. He just might be in a higher position than the so-called black or Negro, or the Moors who are branded that. And that's how he looked at it, and he actually told me that. And I'm the kind of person where I don't get angry immediately. I'll let people speak their mind in their natural state. I'll let them say whatever they choose to say. That way I can examine how they think, and that way I know how to deal with them pragmatically. And so, with that point, it got to the point where he called one day and said, I have to have somebody come by your house, and I want someone to look into your home. And I said, well, I have a lot of valuables. I don't just want anyone passing through here while I'm renting. When the lease is up, then anyone can walk through here who you wish to walk through here. And he said, no, that's my house. So we had, let me get his name. He had Sheriff, his name is Bonneville County Sheriff Paul J. Wild. Paul J. Wild called my house on the double line with Keith on the phone. And, I always have a recorder with me. And so I turned my recorder on, I put it on speakerphone, and the sheriff says, we're going to come by and we're going to arrest you temporarily until the lady walks through the house, which is a potential client to purchase the property from him. And when we're done doing what we're doing, if you're good, we will release you. And I said, is that so? And he said, that's exactly what's going to happen. I said, here's what. I said, you're violating your oath, right? And he got really quiet. And I said, and he said, and? He said, I'm a high member in the church. I said, oh, so you're passing religious favors through your office. And he said, no. And I said, yes, you are, and I'm recording you doing so. And the phone went click. And Keith called me back like himself. And he said, I'm a big man in this community. I can cause you a lot of pain. And after that, he came by on a Monday and delivered to me a quick lease notice. I said, no problem. He kept on saying, if you find let me know if you need a good reference, because I can find a good reference for you. I'll be a great reference for you, if you find any other place. And what he's really telling me codified is, anyone I talk to over here is going to be my family, and so you won't be able to find a place to live. But so my wife and I went over there, and we found another place in a little small community. They were still European, a majority in the area, but they were not Mormon. And they just kind of banded together because Mormons had really caused a lot of pressure against them as well. And so we were able to rent a spot. And the day that we were moving, he and his son came, his son pulled up really fast. What are you doing? What are you doing? I said, well, we're moving. He said, how is that possible? Because they really thought that they put the word out. And I said, where are you moving to? I said, that's our business. And, and he said, well, I don't know how you found the place, but my dad had made a couple of phone calls. And I said, well, your dad failed in what his attempts were. That's how it all started. And once I had recorded the sheriff, then it was free game from there. I had one more visit once I moved to the second home from a pastor from a Mormon church, and he came to me in this light saying, I'm offering you one more opportunity to make amends. And he said, you can join the church. And I said, no, thank you. And he said, what do you mean, no, thank you? And by then I had become more knowledgeable of what Mormon meant. Anything in the spelling like you mentioned earlier. And I said, the only Mormon officer is me. And he was hot, and you could tell that he was high up in the church and a Mason. And he said, shut up about that. And there's two phrases that I heard a lot: shut up about that and uppity. I heard that so much while I was living. I heard uppity so much. They'll say, you're uppity. And also, it's a good thing you know the law the way you do, because this is the brand that they used, and I didn't accept it, but I knew they were trying to speak to. You somewhere on the side of the road dead, nigger. That's exactly what they would tell you outright. And so this Romney, kinder, gentler person, and they try to show you how sweet and kind they are. It's a front, and they only put on the front as long, and they act like little children too, because they don't think for themselves. Period. I'm just going to tell you that right now. They're like, imagine an ant, where the ant only is programmed to do what it does. Its job is to collect finance and bring finance to the church. And so they may have member bodies of that political order, that it's a political order, that may be knowledgeable of what's going on, but the others are just followers, and many of them are highly inbred. I'm not making it up. From me living there, they will tell you that. And when you look at the eye color, and, they'll say, like, I had the second house we lived in, the lady said, my family came over here, with Joseph Smith, and they colonized the area. They'll tell you flat out, colonized the area. And, a lot of them are inbred because they wanted to keep the finance within them. And so that's why the eye color is the color that it is. And this is a lady telling me this. She's European. She's telling me this. And she was just being more real because she said that her family had left the area or left that idealism because it was too oppressive to everyone. And said the mother had a lot of friends that were of our nationality and that she didn't like the way they were treated because she felt that, I'm just telling you what she said, she felt that if they would do her like that, us like that, it wasn't but a couple of steps before they would do anyone else like that and even their own. Which is very true. Right. But from that point, I started, the more I studied, the more I started putting things on the public record. And I want to say that I always had an idea of Constitution. I just did not understand my place and part in it as a Moor. That came from going online and seeing Taj Bay videos. I read plenty of books. I could see the name Moor and read, but I didn't understand my place in it. And so after watching the brother on YouTube, I would watch it over and over again, and it solidified something with me where I had to understand, like, whoa, this man is talking to me directly. And I said, in all of us, since we've been trained, whether we want to believe it or not, we've been trained that just because a brother says something out of his mouth, automatically we just discredit it. And I would say I did the same thing. I put it off. I'll go to a Robert Renard video. And, I'm just going to be real with you. I'm always going to be honest. That's what I do. I'm going to be real on every front. And if people don't like it, that's just what they don't like. But this is my evolution. And so this is how I evolved. And so something kept on nagging on me. There's a video where the brother has a red turban on, the red fez on with the white tunic, and Brother Abdullah introduces him in, and they're talking about driver's license fraud. And I got a phone call while I was in Idaho. My sister said they had locked her up, on some fraudulent charges, and they were trying to give her 10 years. And I had known, and I had been around Europeans for my early teens, living an agricultural type life. Because I worked on ranches and such, and I would always hear them talk about Constitution and things of this nature, and I had a lot of Europeans that would tell me, study your Constitution, learn about your rights. And they would always tell me this, but Taj gave me the pivotal keys that gelled it all together. But incidentally, back to what I was saying, my sister, they had her locked up, and I said, you know what, ordinarily I wouldn't know what to do, but I took what that brother said verbatim, and I wrote it down. I wrote every bit of it down verbatim, and I added her name to it, and I faxed it to where she was in Nevada, and she was freed from whatever charges that they had against her. They kept on testing her. I said, you got to read what this brother wrote, what brother's talking about over and over again till you get it right. They released her from prison. While she was released, she had a nervous breakdown, so she was in the hospital. What this brother said was so vital. From just me copying it from. Do you know they sent her flowers in the hospital every day while she was there because they didn't want her to show back up to the court. Or take your time. Don't show back up to the courtroom. And because of this, I kept on studying. I'm like, man, this brother is telling you the truth. He's talking to me directly, this man looks like me. And so I went further because most of the time, any knowledge that I want to learn about agriculture, I didn't see. I love agriculture. And there was nobody that I saw that I could go to learn about that but the European. He's the one who stole all the land, so he's the one going to teach you about agriculture if he's willing to teach you. So he was the one I was around, and he was the one who would always tell me different little keys and points because, you know, if I'm around one for a certain length of time, you know, they like you. They can like or dislike you like anyone else can. And these people happen to like me, so they would tell me different things. But this brother right here was talking to me directly. And that's why, first of all, I want to say, as I speak here tonight, I really want to give much respect to him because everything this brother is telling you is real. Not because he said it, because he told you to go look it up, and I did. And he was telling me the truth. And so at that moment I said, man, this is very real. Then I found R.V. Bay Publications, Sister Roz Mariah Bay. And then, you know, in this process I was able to talk and meet Sister Funtayus-El. And from there, we really started gelling, and they were teaching me. They were schooling me. Sometimes I pretend like I know a little this and that, but I didn't know what they knew. They were teaching me. They were rearing me up from a civilly dead state and putting me in a position where I could stand on my square. And anybody listening to this, get the finance out of your mind, just thinking about finance. Before you can get any finance, you need to free yourself. You need to understand who you are and how to carry yourself with this European who's going to try to rob you on every front. And he's already robbed us. Now it's time to get back what he's robbed from us. And so, you know, I started listening more, and as I started learning more, I knew then they were starting to, things I would put on the public record, because at that time I used to put things on their public record. Now I don't. We have our own public record, but I would put things on the public record, and they really weren't aware of what I was putting on there. I was claiming my children's DNA, their blood, skin cells, hair follicles, hair cells, whatever I could claim, I was making a claim of right on anything that I own. And I listed everything that I was hiding it. I put that out there like that because they already could see what I had because many of them had moved me there because we had a large truck that moved us there. We had a double cab semi that moved us there. So once they know what you had, they were after us on every part to place liens on my property. Everywhere I went, you have people trying to place liens on our property. This is what they love to do in Idaho. Especially, they love to do that everywhere, but they really love to do it in Idaho on another level. And when I say that they work together, they work together. It's like a million of them will come at you. You can topple them over as they keep coming at you, but they'll keep on coming at you because they don't think for themselves, and they've been told that we are savages. Well, a lot of us do act like a savage sometimes because of a lack of understanding of self. But, that's just being honest. That's just being real. I at times I act like a savage too. But I try to carry myself differently now because I know who I am and I know how my mother raised me, and I don't want to get knocked upside the head, but that's another story. But
I hear you on that, but I do have a couple of questions. You had and I have to make mention too, Funtayus is holding on the line, so I'll be bringing her on in a moment. But you mentioned that you said that it's not really Utah, it's Idaho territory. Could you please explain that for us?
It was like this was the Idaho territory. See, the Mormons kind of, they try their best to spread out and colonize. No different than at the present time. They're trying their best to get to Tamari or Alkebalon, and because while we were there, I would see men and women, Europeans dressed like Nigerians, where they're coming back and forth. They try to heavily colonize areas like as they've always done. But this was the Idaho territories, Bonneville County, and to get to the meat of it, the sheriff would send his henchmen after me, especially after I got something that I have here. I wanted to go purchase something. I won't go into what I was trying to purchase, but I will say that I needed what they called a state ID. And at that time, I was still studying what Taj was saying, but I learned enough to know. I'm like, well, let me use this to my advantage. I said, well, I learned how to deaden it. So I went in, and I reserved my rights. They immediately took me to a back room and started talking to me about, why did you put this on here? And I said, well, I reserved my rights because, to keep me in my common law position and to keep me out of a corporate status with that nom de guerre, that war tag name. and they said, well, they said, well, someone's coming out from the sheriff's department. And I said, well, I doubt it will be the sheriff because he doesn't want to see me. And so a deputy came out. At this time, there were very few deputies there. They came out. He came out. He made sure I saw his pistol. He sat back in a recliner chair, and he turned every 5 seconds to show me his pistol. And I said, I really I'm not afraid of your pistol, man. And so he had a lady go into the back room, and she brought out a big, thick manual. And she said, you're breaking code number, whatever. I said, you know darn well that these codes you speak of, you contracted for those codes. I'm not an employee of your particular municipal corporation. You are. And I said, I don't have any contacts with you. If I do, please make me aware of them so I can see them and rescind them. And they said, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, you're operating colorably. And I would just keep on repeating, every time they would read something to me, I said, that's color of law. Finally, they said, we're going to have to call the sheriff. They called the sheriff. The sheriff got on the phone. You can hear him talking. He says, let him go. Give him anything he wants. And so they did. They gave me the card. I was able to go purchase what I wanted. And then I received a letter in the mail saying that the car would be dead. And let me see if I can find that letter exactly. But I received a letter in the mail telling me that car would be deadened and that I couldn't use it anymore. And I said, well, that's fine with me. That's what I really wanted anyway. I just wanted the card. And in that letter, it told me I had to return the card. They claimed that they were going to return my money, but they didn't in the letter. And they said a check had been included in it, but there was no check. And so I wrote them back and I said, I'll gladly return the card to you, as I've actually was the one who gave notes for it. And I said, I'll return the card to you for 10,000 Federal Reserve notes. I said, because right now it's in my possession. The possession is not against the law. The card doesn't represent me, but it is in my possession. And I said, though I'm not accepting surety for it. They wrote
Quick question. Now, what did they say was the reason for canceling the card?
I'm going to tell you right now. It says, Idaho Transportation Department. It says, records of Idaho Transportation Department indicate you are not entitled to the Idaho identification card you were issued on July 21st, 2010 due to the signature on the identification. Idaho Code Section 49244 requires the signature by the applicant. No other words or symbols are allowed. The department is canceling your identification card effective August 2nd, 2010. Please surrender your Idaho identification card in the enclosed envelope. Idaho will not issue an identification card that bears a signature that includes without prejudice, under protest, all rights reserved, symbols, or other additions. That matter came before a department hearing in February 2005. The hearing upheld the decision that since the insurance of a driver's license or identification card is not a commercial transaction for purposes of the Uniform Commercial Code, reservations of rights do not comply with the requirements for a signature on the application for a driver's license, identification card, or on the license itself. Therefore, insurance on an Idaho driver's license, identification card, will be denied until an applicant signs the application and card required by Idaho Code. You may request an administrative hearing as to the procedures of the department's actions. And then I wrote, it says you have 20 days basically to hold the card. And I wrote them back and I told them, let me see what I wrote them back so I can find. Well, incidentally, I wrote him back and I told him that administrative was colorable and had nothing to do with de jure law. And I put this on the public record, and I told them they were involved in fraud and they were racketeering. And so I wrote this and I went out to the public record. I've been putting things on the public record for a while, like I told you. And then this time, a guy named Ronald Longmore writes me back. And I always put a little notice there to tell them, I'll say, please record this for the public record, Bonneville County, not the county of Bonneville, but the lawful de jure government. And I wrote that on the little cover letter, and he writes me back and says, Dear Funtayus, he said, and he put my title on there. He says, we are returning this document and the check as we are not sure what you wanted us to do with it. And then he goes a little further, and so you return the check this time. And I wrote back again, and I told him exactly what to do with it. But this time around, he returns and it says, this is, you know, the seal on this is illegible, so we can't put it on the public record. They had taken the seal, which was a notary seal from a lady who had a mailbox, et cetera, kind of store, who was a honest and upright lady. And they had taken black ink and he smeared the seal so that I wouldn't be able to put it on the public record. So I took that and I went over to I won't mention her name, but I went over to the mailbox, et cetera. And this particular day, there's a man there who's dressed really dapper. I mean, he's dressed, you know, business-like, and he looks very more like a Fed. And he's got the, you know, the leather cuff, shoulder. What is it? On the elbows. You know how they wear.
Oh, like the elbow patches, like on the blazers.
Yeah. He's sitting there. He's got his glasses, just like the issue that they wear, that the Feds wear. And then she said, "Could you come back in a minute, Funtayus?" And she's never told me that because her store's always open for business because she needed a lot of business. Her business wasn't running the best as it should. And she said, could you come back in about, you know, an hour or so or something of that nature? And I said, yeah, no problem. I left. I came back. And she said, that man that you saw me talking to earlier, she said, he was telling me not to seal any more of your documents. And I said, wow, are you serious? She said, yeah, whatever you're putting on the public record, they're pretty angry about. And I said, well, I don't mind showing you what I'm putting on there. I'm not putting on anything that is not outside of my rights. She said, I don't care if you're copying a lease and putting it on here. You have that right. And so, I went to her again. She said, can I see a piece of your cotton paper? Because I only do works on 100% cotton paper. And she said, I want to show you something. I said, yeah, you can have a piece of cotton paper. And she took the seal and she stamped it over and over again, and she tried to smear it, and it would not smear. If it did smear, it was just a little bit. She said, someone did this on purpose. This was a setup. So, and it's really disheartening because this person who did this, his name is Ronald Longmore, and he's the one who gave me permission, meaning I went to the class in order to get my notary seal, and he's a person that's above me. If he would do this, he would do anything. And I said, yeah, he has been doing anything. And so I called him on the phone as I was leaving the mailbox, et cetera, with another seal, to put back on the public record what I intended to put on the record in the first place. And I called the office of Ronald Longmore. I said, Ronald Longmore. I said, it's really ironic that your name is Moor. I said, you're talking to a Moor. And he said, and he was like, who is this? I said, this is Funtayus-El. I said, I'm a true Moor, not someone who wishes to be a Moor and who wishes to steal someone's heritage and legacy. And I said, you need to understand, I'm about this close to pressing federal charges against you, so you better decide what you're going to do. I said, you can put my things on the public record like I told you because you work for me, servant, or I can press those charges. I've already contacted the Justice Department, and I've also contacted the Postmaster General because this is mail fraud. You need to decide what you're going to do. And he said, don't talk to me that way. I said, I can talk to you like I choose. I said, I'm speaking to you as a public servant who has gone to the level of skullduggery. And he got off the phone with me. He hung up. I sent him my documentation, and from that point, I would always put my documents on the public record, and they wouldn't stop it. And I would always go over there because I went over there the next time I came back. Everyone at the Office of Public Records, everyone at the Department of Motor Vehicles have been deputized. They all have been deputized because I put in a writ that they were not officers, and they were pretending to be elected officials. So they all were deputized, like in the light, to protect them. And then to really get to another valid point, these people were very well organized, and they would continue to tell me to shut up about different things that I was mentioning. And at this time, I was getting a lot of information from Sister N.I.E. that she would get from Brother Taj, that she would get from Brother Taj to send over to me. And every time he would send me something, remember, they're heavily engaged in Mormonism. You can go, you'll see their pictures. They'll have their belts on and different, their gloves on. Every 5 feet is a Mormon Masonic temple. And when I would deliver this information to them, they would say, shut up about that. And I'd say, I don't have to shut up. I didn't give an oath. I can tell you the truth to your face, and I can carry myself with honor and nobility as you will never be. And they would get angry on every foot. They would send people out to my home. And one particular night, a skinhead was on the steps. Very short, stocky guy. It's about 3, 4 in the morning, and he's just sitting there ringing the doorbell. And I said, you have the wrong house. His truck is parked cat a corner in the street, blocking the whole road. The door is open, and I felt that they had sent this person out to actually cause injury to me. And when they realized I wasn't, and I won't get into great detail, I'll just say when they realized that I wasn't going to tolerate it, I called 911, not so much for my protection in that sense, because I know that they won't protect you. They're usually the ones causing the injury. But I called 911 to make it du jour, as I heard Todd say. If they won't make it du jour, you better make it du jour. So I called into the 911, and I put it on the record. I said, there's a skinhead on my steps. The lady was speaking to me. I said, I would like to state my nationality for the record. Robert to state the nationality. I said, I'm stating my nationality just in case any supposed or so-called officers claiming to be officers happen to kill me, my family can press charges against them for the full extent of the law. And she was like, all right, I understand that. I stated my nationality. I told them the dominions in which I reside. And then from that point, they said, you should have seen how fast they sent out a police to come and pick up this particular individual. Now, they didn't come to my family was all right. They said our main concern is to make sure this man gets to safety. Now, he's drunk, and he's parked in the street. He's over to this place that he's ringing on the doorbell. But their concern was he says he knows someone in that house, and we want to know, make sure that he's all right, and we believe him. I said, oh, is that so? Is that so? It was a continued ongoing situation. Then we get to the point where that was remedied because of my studying, having studied hard, and I knew how to carry myself. So I was able to thwart their advances with that. Then I have my wife was pregnant. My son was coming into the world. The reason why I'm telling you bits and pieces, and it seems like a lot happens, these people are very organized. And when they come at you with everything that they have. They're looking at us. It's us that we're the ones that don't recognize we have an enemy. They recognize it very well. And they do everything they can to rob you. I remember being at Walmart. They would surround you, and ignore you. Anything you say. You're trying to purchase something at the register, and they're just totally ignoring you like children. And they'll say, well, if we ignore them, it'll hurt them that they're not a part of the church. Because that's how they're twisted in their mind. They really believe that. But like I said, my wife was having a son. And I had a midwife. I went to the midwife. And the midwife is pretty much all that's there in the area. I went to the midwife. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, before my son is born, he's not going to have a birth certificate. And she said, well, that's fine, because all she cared about was the finance. And she said, well, this is how much it's going to cost. And I told her on every occasion, my son is not going to have a birth certificate. And I said, you're licensed with the state of Idaho, and so they're going to basically come after you. So I'm not worried about that. So I've been studying a little bit as well, and I said, no problem. When the time came that my son was born into this world, a couple of days afterwards, they said, well, we need for you to sign the birth certificate. And I said, I told you I was not. And they said, well, we need for you to sign it. All persons must. And I said, I'm not a person. I'm a natural person. I said, the person you're referring to is a corporation, and I myself am a living, breathing, sentient being. And I said, I'm here with spirit. I said, corporation has no ears to hear or eyes to see, and it doesn't care about your feelings. And I said, and I don't care about it, and I want nothing to do with it. So she wrote me again. She wrote me, and then she called me again, pleading, saying that the state of licensing board was going to fine her a large sum of finance. And I said, well, that's your problem for not understanding contracts. I understand contracts. I don't have a contract with the state of licensing board. And she said, well, all persons must. I said, this natural person must not. And I said, I'm not going to sign anything. I do not abandon or waive any of my rights with equitable remedy by estoppel. I said, do you know what that means? She said, no. I said, well, I will explain it to you. So I said, that means I'm standing firm on what I'm telling you right now. If anything happens that makes it seem as though I changed my mind in this stance, you know that some dishonesty went on. Because I'm telling you right now, I stand firm in what I say. And she said, all right. And I told her, I said, what I can do for you is write you a letter telling you that you offered to me, what you were supposed to offer. And she denied me that. And then she went and got a lawyer. And the lawyer said, whoever this person is, he understands law very well. He's right. He doesn't have a contract with the state board licensing agency. You do. And so if you really want to be on his good side, you better go and be kind to him and ask him, can he give you that letter that he tried to give you and you denied? And so they called me back, and I said, I was kind of, I said, well, I didn't just give it to them immediately. The next day I received a call from Bureau of Vital Statistics or something to do with the people that house birth certificates. I don't necessarily know their name because I don't have any operations in business with them. But they called me and said, and I always record everything. I always tell the person on the other end of the line, because that's what the statutes say, always tell the person on the other end of the line that you're recording it. When that automatic service comes on and tells you something, that's a person. So I told the person, I'm recording you. And so when a human being came on, even though they're not in the proper status, they themselves are in a wardship capacity. When she came on, she said, I'm from whatever vital statistics. I need for you to sign that birth certificate. I said, well, I'm not going to. She said, was your child not born in the state of Idaho? I said, that's impossible. The state of Idaho is a private for-profit corporation. And she started yelling. So, your son was born in the state of Idaho. And then she got to the point where she actually said, your child is the property of the state of Idaho. And I said, what? I said, you know I'm recording this. I said, you do know I'm recording this, right? And the phone went click, as usual. And then the next day, the midwife called and said, you can do whatever you want. That's the truth. From there, the midwives had tried to forge, do all type of dangling on the document. And before, when they asked me for the document, my wife would bring me the document. I'd take the birth certificate, and I just stamp all over it till it was all red, so you could see all rights reserved everywhere. All rights reserved. And they said, we can't accept it. I said, it's not my problem. But after that, they told me I could do whatever I wanted. And then my child was born without a birth certificate or Social Security card because you don't need one. You don't need one to operate. All you need to do is ask one of our mestizo brothers. He's here working all the time without one. But they had to try to make us believe that it's what we need. But belief is not what we need to the area where we need to be on. We need to be on the area of fruition. So and please, I do not wish to be rude. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a question, and then I would like to bring Anna Eden to address several key things, especially what you're speaking of in reference to the birth certificate. Also, too, the conspiracy as far as telling and going, like how the agent was speaking to the notary to try to get her not to stamp your documents. And it's something that you bring that up because what happens is that people, they're pretty much just doing their business and carrying on with their tasks. And then as soon as someone like that comes up, it's like they get so intimidated, they get scared, and they feel like, okay, I'm not going to deal with you, or, I'm going to reject anything that you bring in because out of fear they do this, and that is not lawful. So how did you find out that the midwife was forging the documents?
Well, I'm very thorough in my affairs, and I pay attention to everything. And usually when I implement or do anything, I've already orchestrated it. Like Muhammad Ali says, and you can see Muhammad Ali out there, he's speaking things into existence. And I got that from Sister N.I.E., but that's how I really always operated. I want to be the one to orchestrate my own fate. And so I want to pay attention to everything that they're doing because I have to carry myself as an adult. I am not a minor of mine. I am not incompetent. I am quite capable of handling my own affairs, though sometimes I might be missing vital keys. But the main thing is I have to be able to first admit I don't know something, and then I'll go and find it. And so that's why I'm the way that I am. And saying that, and I hear you saying about a lot of people may be intimidated and fear. Knowledge of self and I hear Todd say this over and over again. I hear Roger Mariah say it over and over again. Knowledge of self and study. Noble Drew Ali and Sister Anaid really brings that home every time. She'll tell you, study. Not just study, but apply what you have studied if you're studying in the right perspective with the proper concepts. And so when you have the proper concepts, you feel greatly confident. And I've always been an individual where, my family doesn't fear the police because, a lot of times my grandmother, I remember, because in the Tennessee territories, in a place they call Memphis, my grandmother would go to prison every summer because the police would fight her. She would stand and fight, and 20 policy enforcers would come out to have to bring her down, and she may take whatever from them to secure herself. And so she always taught us we don't call the police in that manner, and I may have called them for strategic reasons, but calling them to deal with our issues, these are our issues. And so my grandmother taught us that, and I've seen them beat my grandmother over and over again, or my uncles or my aunts. And so I refuse to be afraid of them. I'm not saying don't use your cognitive thinking and be intelligent about it, but you better use your brain when dealing with them, and you better respect them because they are to be respected. They had 600 years, like Elena was telling us, Sister Elena was telling us the other day. They said we got 600 years of abusing us, or us abusing ourselves, but not standing up for ourselves. And so I look at it like they already are doing whatever to us. So if you don't go and study and stand up against what they're doing, you're a coward. They're already doing it to you. So you better go and study and put your concepts in order so that when he does come at you, you're able to counter him with knowledge. It's very vital. And so if you have, if you're going to bring Sister Anaid on, I will yield the floor until you need me again.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for that.
No, thank you. Islam.
Anaid? Islam, welcome. Anaid, I have to tell you, when I saw this video and then after I talked to Funtayus, I was not aware that there was so much activity that occurred that led up to that point, that the world saw. So, he did go over and explain, how everything transpired with his studies. So what was the first conversation like with his brother?
Oh, well, first, we just hit it off. He's like I am, he studies. So, I think we were on the phone for hours and hours just, giving each other information and swapping information. And it just went on for hours. It's one of the things that you'll find when you start researching, exactly who you are in terms of your Moorish heritage is there's so little people to talk to about it. And then if you do find a couple of people to talk to, sometimes they just don't study as much as you do. So, when you find, at least from my perspective, when I found somebody who was studying as much as I was and just, we could bounce things off of each other, it was on and popping.
I hear you on that. I hear you. So as far as, addressing the main thing that really stands out initially is how the people there, they just felt that they had a right to infiltrate. And when I say that, I'm speaking in regards to the landlord situation, because I have heard that story where the landlord just assumed that just because they actually own the property that they have a right to enter whenever they please. So can you please shed light from the legal angle about that? And then I want to touch base on a couple of other things.
Well, first of all, you must recognize that they do not own the property. That's it.
Okay.
As Funtayus said, they are trying to be us, and they are stealing our birthright or attempting to steal our birthright and heritage. And because many of our people and many Asiatics don't know, They don't know this, and on top of that, they don't know law. They end up acquiescing, and that essentially means they abandon their estate. So they turn over their vast estate to foreigners, and then they run around and try to do things like, violate you in many different ways. And the only reason they couldn't get away with that with Funtayus is because he is so absolutely grounded in the law of his ancestors and exactly who he is. If we had 100 sons like Funtayus, man, this thing would be over.
A whole change in tune. And when he was speaking about the agents and going to speak to the notary, it kind of put me immediately in the mind frame of the article at the Southern Poverty Law Center, where those two detectives out of North Carolina are launching a program to train the clerks and the different employees and the servants involved in the government about how to handle these things. And from reading it, I took it as like they're trying to stop or dissuade the people from filing things on the public record. And I guess that there's some concerns in regards to liens being filed. So Funtayus, when everything was going on at that time, I mean, you were just pretty much filing like your complaints, and they were still giving you a problem.
Yes, they will. Islam, they were in the beginning, and I came to them so aggressively, as in when I speak to them with all of my spirit, letting them know I am the master and you are the servant. And I'm not being arrogant when I say that. I looked at it like I was the Moor over there because I didn't see many other people of my nationality there. I felt like I was the Moor sent there to secure those dominions and return them to the Republican form of government. That's how I looked at things. And that's how I'm still looking at it now. And I came to them that way, and they knew it. They would make threats. They would send people by in order to, like the police came by the house, and he said, I would request their oath of office and their bond indemnity number, their surety bond number. Say enough about that oath in the bond. And I said, or what? And then, I told the lieutenant, I said, I'm not afraid of you. And he brought over someone, I guess, who was known for, intimidating and abusing people. And I said, I'm talking to you. Okay. And if I said it in a manner where I was reversing energy on them. And they were like, you're not afraid, huh? I'm like, no, I'm not afraid. And many of the times it throws them off. This is about energy. And when we talk about balance and hermetic principles, energy has everything to do with this. And so once you start presenting energy and how to reverse it on them with certain terms, like if I were to refer to them, I would refer to them as you people. I will refer to them as boy, or not to belittle them or antagonize them, but as a reversal of energy and psychology, because they're using psychological tactics on us. And so you have to reverse the energy on them in order to put them back into their proper status. Because remember, here, they really truly don't have any status. And it's the lowest ranking. They just traded places with us colorably, the semblance of having a higher state. And so once you start knowing who you are, like Sister and I was saying, it changes everything.
I see. And on that note, Ida, when these type of things happen, what do you recommend the first thing that should be done, especially if someone is trying to prevent them from using something that belongs to everybody and their fiat is going to support these systems in regards to these the public record and the clerk of court where you would file everything?
Well, a lot, if not all, of what these foreign Europeans do, it's done in secret, and they count on the people, acquiescing and just going away quietly. You don't have to, the prophet said talk in an intelligent tone. And what Funtayus does is he talks in not only an absolutely intelligent tone, but he talks with the right spirit. And he backs that correct spirit up with the law of the ancestors. And when you're confronted with that type of energy, you know you better just do what he's asking and just move on to the next person.
I see. On that. So, Funtayus, after everything had transpired, what actually happened right before that video came out?
Right before the video came out, we had a fire. There was a fire at one of the homes. It was an older home. They had a furnace that actually exploded with carbon monoxide, and we were moved to a place called Candlewood Suites, which is a hotel with a kitchen and things of that nature. I was dealing with the insurance company, and during this time, my property is just sitting in limbo, and I really wanted to get out of the place that we were moving to. Because remember, I told you we moved out of the first place, and so we kind of were forced to find another place, and we were kind of forced to find two places, and more settled than anything because of the opportunity we had or options we had available to us, because Mormons have so heavily colonized the area. It won't do any business with you, and it'll put you in a state where your options are. And so we moved to another location where we were staying in Candlewood Suites. I was operating with the insurance company and trying to conduct affairs with that, and that turned out very successful. But my property was sitting in limbo. And like I told you before, the Mormons were heavily after my property. I mean, if you just every little thing that they did was to place lien against your property, literally liens. I don't care if it's a person coming to cut the lawn. They're trying to place liens on your property because they all know that you have particular type of, I have a particular type of property that other people don't have. And so but so many of us don't have. And so maybe one day we'll come on the show and talk about those concepts and those particular idealisms. And so with that, they were after my property the way they always are. They kept coming at me, and so I had to secure myself. We ended up finding a place. It snows a lot there, so we found a place that you couldn't really see the place outside because it was covered in snow. We found a place so we can get out of the hotel. We did, and from that point, that's when the place where you see the video recorded, the home, you see the video recorded in front of with the horrible-looking grass, and I'll tell you why it was horrible, because everything that they did was meant to come at me so that they can claim that I owed them something. They made sure that they removed the nozzle off the sprinklers, where they removed the box where the sprinkler would be, so you wouldn't know where it would be, where it is, and how to operate it, because they don't want you watering the grass. They want to have a reason to say this is a 3,000 note lawn and you owe us, so we got to place lien on your property. They came up with this saying that we reserved our rights, of course, and they sent a letter in the mail saying that if this is a property management company, because they all know each other, if we move and break lease, because basically they're saying that because of the conditions of the place, and we're forced to be there because we have our options are limited. If we moved, that means that they would get the monthly rent until they found a tenant who they felt was suitable to stay there, and we would pay for all advertising fees. This is what they're trying to con me into doing, and I firmly said no. And so I wrote the same thing from RV Bay Publications in the pink booklet, about the W-4. I took the information involving the Social Security number for that corporate entity, and I sent that down to the property management saying, if you use my Social Security number, outside of what I'm telling you to use it for, I'll press charges against you. And at the same time, we're looking for a home to buy. And I'm going to tell you how I am, and I'm going to be honest with you. Like the police or policies enforcers that go around looking for finance, I go around looking for people that are violating Constitution law. and I bring it to them in that light. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I go and find them. I went to the bank in order to buy a property from D.L. Evans Bank. My wife and I, and the ladies doing the paperwork and everything, and I knew that they were not dealing lawfully because they're a bank. Any involvement with banks, you're dealing with criminals. They don't own any property. And so I'm there, and when it gets to the part where they're asking about the ethnicity and race, I'm like, what's this? And it's like, well, that you got to choose your race and ethnicity. And every time I put on there, Moorish American, she'd scratch it out and put black on there. And so I'd scratch it out, and I'll put something else back on there. So we can't keep going through this. So I showed her the law. I showed her international law, Article 6 of the Constitution, how it made treaties the supreme law of the land, and any engagements and debts entered into before were just as valid. Doesn't matter. I showed her even their United States codes that showed that I had the right to do what I was doing. And I said, that you're violating me. And went right back to the same thing. She'll put on there. She said, my hands are tied. I have to put this on here. I said, you don't have to do anything. You can be moral if you so choose to be. And so from, this, I'm telling you the ongoing history of how they were coming at me. Most every weekend, I'm talking to the police. They're trying to come at me with something all the time. Or they're trying to come at my wife all the time because it's their job in order to steal your property. No different than all of us are facing. But in Idaho, they're a little bit more organized, a whole lot more organized. But, they kept coming at me. And then they came in with the state of Idaho in order to give they were lending me finance, said they were going to, finance what was going on. And I said, I didn't know that states could emit or issue bills of credit. And so the lady scratched her head. She left out again. She came back. States can do that. I said, well, doesn't say that here in the state's constitution. I said, well, the federal constitution, which must be in consort, the state constitution must be in consort with the federal constitution. And so she said, let me go see. And they kept coming at me. I took, I have a thing that Sister and I do, where we open up what is called an online fax account, where they'll have email to faxes, and the one particular one we had offered 1,250 faxes, per month, for a price of $19.95. And it's a lot of work if you're diligent and ardent about seeing these things, seeing us regain our estate. In order to make this come to fruition, you must be active. And so I would sit there like a robot, and then Sister and I would, draft writs and counter them on other points, and we would sit there and just send out writ after writ after writ. Where we would go through all 1,250. I'd open up another account if they would block the email account number or the fax number and send them more. This is the same thing I did even with my son when you see they have him outside. Incidentally, I want to make sure I say I didn't just walk out there, and I keep telling these stories to tell you, I didn't just walk out there and say what I said to the police. But please do not get it wrong. Please do not think that you can walk out in the street like that and the police will not kill you or harm you in any way. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to get any of my people hurt, because we are one and the same. And because if you hurt, I hurt. That's how it is. It was a long, ongoing battle of intellect, of placing writs on the public record, of putting writs on the Moorish Republic news, on the Moorish public news, placing writs with sites that Sister and Aida posted up, constant conversations between Sister and Aida, constantly watching videos and reading, and constantly writing, and creating a paper trail that they could not erase. When I said, I wrote people, and Sister and Aida we wrote so much that you can't imagine. When I say that an account had 1,250 faxes, I used every bit of it and opened up another one and did it again, and I would send just as many emails to cause them problems to the point where when I would see them on the streets, they'll tell me, why are you doing this? Like they'll have old ladies walk up to you because the men were cowards. They would have old ladies walk up to you on the street, and they'll say, you're saying that my husband has done this or my son has done this. Can you please consider what you're doing and that he has a family? I said, I have a family too. So he was just doing his job. I said, I'm doing my job as well. That's the attitude that you have to have. and they would sit literally beg me. And I'll say this, when I left Idaho, the police would literally bow and open the doors for me because they all go to church together, and they recognize that I could cause financial injury to them, and also things that I put down on the record, I always recorded them, can have them placed in prison. See, Mormons are used to doing whatever they want to do because they colonize the area. And so, and even the federal government has difficulty getting off in there. When I called the Postmaster General, he told me flat out, I said, my mail was being tampered with. Oh, yeah, my mail was being tampered with. That's if we got our mail. And he said, where do you live? I said, well, I'm only giving you the postal code because this is the only way I can receive the mail. I said, in other words, it would be in brackets. He didn't care about what I said to him. What he told me was, whoa, you're having problems with Mormons. I said, how do you know? He said, because of the postal code. And he said, you're having problems with Mormons. He said, yeah, we've been trying to get over there. He said, I'm going to send you something in the mail. I'm giving you bits and pieces. So I'm going to send you something in the mail, and I'm going to send it out. And if it's blocked, I don't know exactly who did it. And I'll know who's been causing you problems with the mail. He said, is this the first time? I said, no. This is the third house I've lived in since I've been here. And I said, in each house I've had problems with the mail. He said, yeah, they're good at that. They feel they have the right to everything. This man, incidentally, is where they call Washington, D.C. And I went I'll try to, one of the key things I always try to do, I don't want to talk to peons. If I talk to peons, it's simply to frustrate them so I can record them and catch them in a criminal act. And because usually these people are related, they don't want their cousins, uncles, and aunts to go to jail. And if I keep on recording them in a criminal act, now I have something over their heads. And so now you can get them to do what they should be doing in the first place. You have to be intelligent when you're dealing with these people. Like I'll send out a return request receipt slip. Don't just use a return request receipt slip. Use it. So if you send out one of these documents, and the person who signed for it in the office, because you know they all have jobs there because they're all related. I'm going to keep on repeating this because it's true. Usually in these counties, they're all related. They don't want to be controlled to leave outside of their family. If they let somebody in, rest assured he has some type of political power or some type of finance. If you use a return request receipt slip, use it intelligently. When somebody signs for it, and you're sending out a pre-lien notice or whatever you're sending out, and they claim that person you sent it to didn't get it, whoever signed for it, hold them accountable. Call the Postmaster General and said, hey, I have this slip right here. And whoever signed for it keeps, over there at the office keeps telling me that the sheriff didn't receive this document. Paul Wild, he didn't receive this document, but let me see but somebody signed for it. And I said, could you help me out here? And the Postmaster General was like, no problem, that's my job. Because remember, when you have the federal, state, and local so-called governments, they usually have battle with each other because one wants to control the other. And so I had people sign. I had different people sign, and I started saying, I faxed this to the Postmaster General showing who signed for it. He said, these people are committing mail fraud. I said, yeah, I think they are. And when I talked to him, a lot of times I talked to him like I didn't know any better, and I understood exactly what I was doing the whole time. Sometimes when you're knowledgeable only, you have to bring it to them. Just like they bring it to you, you got to bring it to them. Because just sitting on the sidelines waiting for it to happen to you, that's not how it needs to work. Because it's happening to all of us out there. And so you have to go out from justice and correct it. If you don't correct it, you're a coward. I'm sorry to tell you, or you're lacking knowledge, which is putting you in a cowardly seat. I'm not begging anybody for anything. I'm not asking for respect. I'm just telling you how I am. I'm demanding and taking respect. The respect is mine, and I'm the only one who can see my faith to be what it is. Respect is mine, and what injury can they do to you other than what they already are doing to you? And you Moors out there who are selling out the people for finance, you need to be ashamed of yourself because you're a genuine coward. And I'll tell you to your face, and I feel sorry for you that you would sell out your own people and know the European does not respect you. He dang sure doesn't respect you. He respects people who tells them to his face, and he always will. And so that's why a lot of times when I would demand something, they would end up doing it. They'll say, "Are you sure?" Are you sure? I said, I'm very sure. Somewhere in there, they have a covenant that goes deeper than what most of us know. And when you stand your ground, they will respect you. And they know when you're coward. They know when you're afraid. Doesn't mean you can't be nervous or your mouth doesn't get dry when you're speaking to them, because they still are in power enough to kill you. But it's still two men standing there. And if you don't stand on your square, who's going to do it for you? No one can do that sacred geometry for you but you. And so if there's any questions, I will yield the floor. There may be questions for other people like Todd Tariq Bey or Sister Anna-Eve, and then I will go further when you call me. I yield the floor.
Thank you so much. That is so key. And going back to what Anna-Eve was saying about having the spirit behind it, people know when you really lack confidence, and especially when you feel that they're more superior than you. They can smell it. It's kind of like when a dog can sniff out fear. So it's something that you mentioned that. So with the going back to what you were saying about they just kept on trying to put like the liens on the property. Now, how were they able to do that? And you have to excuse me if I'm being naive, and feel free to pretty much chime in on this, because I thought that if you have a property and somebody is trying to put a lien on the property, it's due to some type of existing contract that would exist or something that did not occur. I mean, if something of obligation wasn't fulfilled. So, Funtayus, when you said that, were you speaking of like the actual county that was doing this, or the neighbors around you were attacking you in that matter?
I'm speaking of the matter of whomever was there. And I'm going to repeat this again. They're all related. That means if they work at the county, they're their cousins, they're their aunts, they're their uncles. And so they're intertwined. No different than where I am right now. I'm in the California territories, which is mostly run by Portuguese, and I grew up around them working in agriculture, and they'll tell you all the time, we're all related. And they're telling you that for a reason, because it's something they get arrogant about, because they really have well organized themselves. They're letting you know that we all are together. And so we're not going to budge on robbing you. And so what they tried to rob me is what I should say they did. They came at me like while I was in the hotel, we had our things in the storage. And the storage man, before he could even talk to me about what finance would have to be paid, now we're trying to open up an account. He's talking to me about liens. Everybody who I met and had to do business with, they went straight to talking to me about liens. I'll say, why are you speaking to me about liens? I said, I'm not even in default with you about anything. I said, sure.
Right, exactly.
They even put my property, they put my property in locations. I got a lot of property. They put it in locations in a storage right by doors. And the moving men were there. They were Mormon, but there were some more moving men who were a little bit more honest and upright with you. And I'm not going to say every Mormon. I'm going to say what they call Mormons. Not everybody is dishonest, but there's a lot of people that have disingenuous intentions. And so the mover said, I really feel that someone's trying to set you up for robbing you. There will always be somebody there who will be real with you. They'll say, I feel that somebody's trying to rob you. I said, I feel the same thing. So that's just I've been moving for many years now, and I've never seen things played strategically so easy for us to get to. And I asked him just to ask, because I already knew what was going on. I said, are you sure they're not moving it? Because they got a lot of heavy stuff. And they're like, no, I think someone's trying to set you up for a robbery. So I went to the office with the storage man, and I said, hey, you are in a licensed enclave of the federal governmental body, so automatically, whether you know or not, you get first oath and affirmation in your colorable status, because you are colorable, so you get first oath and affirmation because you're bonded to secure the rights of I and we the people constitutionally, and I'm part of that I and we. And they'll say, and this old man got really nervous, so he brings a lady out of the back who's been back there listening, and she's shaking when he comes out, because a lot of times when you have a powerful energy, they'll shake when they come by you. Like we normally might be nervous when the police comes. I've never been the person, the police are coming, and then we run. I don't run. I'm going to sit there and let them know I can stand here like you standing here. Who are you? And so when I would talk to the man at the storage place, I'm telling him to his face. I said, well, let me get a copy of everything that you have, and I'm reserving my rights. And I said, if any of my property comes up missing, I said, and I can't see it on that camera security that you have there. I will subpoena it into court. And I said, I will sue you because right now my property is in your possession and I'm holding you accountable for it because you do have some level of surety accountability. And he knew I understood how insurance operated as well. I said, and he's like, but your insurance should cover that. I said, but that's my insurance. That's a contract between the insurance company and I. Right now we're talking about a contract between you and I. And I'm speaking to you as a corporate citizen. I said, so right now, if something happens to my property, you know I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to put a lien on your property. And it was like, and the lady was like, I don't want that. We'll work everything out. I said, my insurance company will handle everything. And I said, they work for me. I'm making sure that they work. He said, there'll be no problems. And the lady started dealing with things, making sure they had copies for me and everything. And I said, and then they were handing me a copy. I said, no, I want the original. That belongs to me. I claim that property because I'm the one that gives it life when I sign that document. I'm the one because it's a linear adhesion. And so I can choose conditionally how I want it. I'll take my pen, scratch out what I didn't like, and change it. And they'll be looking nervous. I said, you know there's nothing you can do about it if you want my business. And they were like, it's all right, it's all right. And I said, and I said, I'm going to tell you in advance, if you try anything shiesty, I will sue you. Because automatically you're going to transfer, that corporate, my lawful name into a corporate fiction or nom de guerre, and I'll sue you for that. And they're like, I said, so I always try to tell you up front what's going to happen. So if I receive something in the mail talking about a lien and it's in all capital letters, I'm going to sue you because you're violating me under international law. And they're like, well, we don't want that. The more people that I let know that I was knowledgeable of myself and law, the less that the more frightened they became, and you'll hear them whispering more and more and more. And I would even do I would do it even for not even just for myself. I may call over to the police station and tell them, today I don't feel like giving tickets to or bills of attainders to people riding down this road. If I hear from anybody that you passed a bill of attainder on that road, I'm going to have to place a lien against your property. That's how I came to them. And to the point where, I'm going to be honest with you, when I left Bonneville, what they call the county of Bonneville, there was potholes all in the street. And they knew I'm the one who caused them. You have to cause financial injury to these people intelligently. That's the intelligent tone that Noble Drew Ali is talking about. Tone is not always to do with speaking. Sometimes tone is action. Sometimes tone is action, always action. Period. It's action. Either you active or you passive. You need to choose what you want to be. But don't get me wrong, I didn't come at them, like when you see me out there in the street with my son's situation, it had gotten to the point where these people were, unless you have something else you want to talk about, unless you want to go into that, you please let me know. Or if you have someone else you want to bring on with another question, I can respect that, and I will yield the floor to you.
Yes. Well, one question did come up about that, even before the show, is that the people wanted to know how exactly did it happen what transpired? Was your son walking down the street and they just picked him up, or, what happened?
I'll tell you like this. It was a retaliatory action. I won't go into detail. My son did not violate anybody, but it was a retaliatory action because of all of the times that they could not arrest me. When they came to, you got to understand, this was a build-up. When they came to get me, when they came over, my wife usually was lacking knowledge, and so she always would side with them in how she would speak. She would say, they're not doing what you think they're doing. I said, yes, they are. You're just not paying attention. And so, she would always defend them. But this particular day, when they came to the house with my son in the back seat, I was kind of like, whoa, why is my son in the back seat? And they said, well, the man jumped out of the car, and he said, oh, it's not a big deal. We got him. And, and I'm going to tell you exactly what transpired. When the man came out, when the police, I don't know his name exactly, when the police came out, he said, oh, we got your son, man. He wasn't doing anything wrong. We just saw him walking down the street, and he was at a hotel. And they said, well, so we picked him up over there. Some people were concerned about him. That's not what happened, because they all are related, and they all are trying to create incidents that they can get to my son or to divide my family. And he said, well, all I'm going to need is for you to give me a little information about yourself, said, just give me your name. And I said, well, I don't have a name. I said, I have a title. I said, I can give you that. And he said, well, give me that information. That's all I need. Because they already knew who I was. They always, trust me, they did. I wrote them all the time. And I made sure their faxes received so much paperwork, I guarantee you I made sure it ran out of ink. And so they knew exactly who I was because they're all related. And I don't care where you live, where the government operated, they're mostly all related. They colonized the area, and it ain't that many Europeans here. Okay, I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to him. I give him what he asked for. I did give him the information he asked for just to see. And he said, I said, well, okay, then I wait for my son to come on. He said, and I said, oh, yeah, by the way, I said, I know, you can't get out unless you unlock the door. That's what I told him, unless you open the door from the outside. And he said, I'm not going to do that. He's like, I got you now. I got you now. He said, I need your identification. He was just saying that so he can arrest me or take me in and book me for all things prior. Because everything prior, whenever they would ask for identification, remember, I didn't have any. I deadened it, by reserving my rights. When the letter I just read for you, they said they dead that identification, what they call identification. I said, identification now. I said, identification in law is same. It's like Popeye says, I am that I am, even though he's trying to steal my Moorish birthright. And I said, I am that I am. And he said, I'm going to ask you one more time. I said, you don't ask me anything, sir, and I tell you what to do. I'm making a demand to you. He said, are you serious? I said, I'm as serious as a heart attack. That's my blood there in the car. I said, you better learn what eusanguinous means. He said, what does that mean? I said, that means the law of blood. I said, you better pick up a book sometimes, you ignoramus. And he was like, whoa. He said, you're serious? I said, yes, I am. I said, I have the right to secure myself against you because you have my son and you need to release him. He said, well, I'm not going to give you anything. CPS will come and take your child from you. I said, CPS will not be touching my son here today. I said, because he belongs to me. He is my son. And I said, that's what I mean, and I'll never veer from that. He said, you're serious, huh? And I said, I'm very serious. I kept coming towards him. He backed off he kept on walking until he backed off the lawn completely. He said, I'm calling back up, and I'll tell you what I said. I said, I don't care if you call your mother. I really don't care. You call whoever you wish to call. You're violating me. You're violating my constitutional rights, and you're doing it colorably. You're doing it under color of authority and color of official right. I said, that's a semblance and appearance of law, but you have absolutely no right whatsoever. I said, the law begins with me and ends with me. You better get it right. And so all of a sudden, more and more people start coming. You may not see in the video, but there's police. There's so many. People think there's 5 police there. There's a lot of police, and they're all down on all sides of the roads, and people are leaving the house. People are leaving the houses more and more. They're starting to leave their homes just in case something happens, just in case the police start shooting me. And I said, I know you may want to kill me, because that's what they were there for in the first place, because they were angry of all of the times I stood up against them, and they had to find something against me, no different than they send that skinhead out to the house. There was a time where they wanted to injure me to my ground every time. And I said, I'm not backing down. More and more people came. More and more people were leaving the home, and more police, so-called officers were coming. When you see me talking to them, they knew who I was. That's why when the lady walks up and I said, and I said it on purpose, because every time before I asked them for their oath of office, they acted as though they didn't know. But when you look up what oath of office means, it is an affidavit of fact. It is an affidavit of the fact of a particular thing that you're standing on, a sworn oath. And so that's also their oath of office. And so I said, I said, let me have your affidavit of fact. Because I did it as a reversal of mind play. Because whenever I asked them before, they would say, shut up about that. And this time, this lady fell for it and spit it out to correct me. Because remember, they're arrogant. Like we're arrogant, they're arrogant too. So she spit it out to correct me, and she said, you mean my oath of office. She didn't even know where it was listed, but I asked them for this many a times, and they would send people over to tell me to shut up about that. And I said, you know what, I'm going to get that bond from you, even if I have to hire a private investigator. You can hide it if you want to. I bet you I'll get it from you. I just said these things just to taunt them, not as an agitation, but along the lines of this is a mental warfare, and you had better fight them from a military standpoint intelligently. Everything is not physical. Much of this is a mental warfare. They have us in servitude mentally. And if you don't know how to stand up to them and they don't feel the spirit that you mean what you say and say what you mean and you're willing to back it with knowledge, they will move forward. They were not out there moving forward because they knew, they had me. They were stuck, and they didn't know what else to do. They came out there to get one of their men who was going to be the hero, and I got him. And I'm going to arrest him for everything he did, even though they all were told not to ever even look in my direction. Because before that, whenever I ride down the street, they'll turn their head to the side and act like I didn't exist because they were told not to touch me. Bottom line, whenever they had dealings with me, they'll take me in a private room every single time. They would speak to me privately, and they would either tell me, hey, man, you can't be giving away our secrets like that. And I said, well, they're not your secrets. They belong to me. I said, they never were yours from the beginning. You're no part of Moor. Well, you got a little more in you, just a little bit, but not enough to make you a noble. I said, I am of the noble class, and I came to carry myself that way. I said, this says Bonneville County. These are the dominions of Moors, and I came to reclaim them. I said, so whatever you choose to do to me, you've already been doing. Whatever you think you're going to do to me now, hey, I'm willing to accept those consequences. I repeat this again. I'm willing to accept these consequences, whether they be positive or whether they be something that we may not like or whether it be something we accept. Men accept the consequences of their actions. Women accept the consequences of their actions when they're standing nobly. If you're not standing nobly and you're standing cowardly, they'll keep on coming at you because they know you're not confident with what it is you're speaking about. I spoke to them like they were public servants because that's what they are. And I reminded them of that on every front to the point they'll tell me, you're rude. I am not a servant. I said, you are a servant to I and we the people. Do not forget that. And I came here, if you forget it, I will remind you of it. I said, every writ that I send you is a reminder of your obligations to me. Like Todd said, your obligations to me. Sometimes I may sound like Todd in my verbiage. I sure hope I do. I hope I mimic him to the point I'm a copy machine because he understands exactly what he's talking about. The brother is on point, and I have absolute love and respect for him, and I have absolute love and respect for Noble Drew Ali, definitely, because he brought us something of substantive nature that's essential to the people in the beginning. Because if you don't have this, you don't have anything. They already stripped us of our nationality and our birthrights. What else are you going to have but stand up for yourself? Because if you don't stand up for yourself, no one's going to do that sacred geometry for you standing on that square. You have to be the one to do it. And so out there, more and more were coming. You have police that knew the Constitution. I was out there talking to them. I'll say, hey, have you passed out any bills of attainder today? You out here trying to separate my family from me with a colorable association or colorable agency called CPS, who never was issued, was never authorized to even exist. I said, so why don't you go and do something honorable? I said, are you out here trying to divide my family into your problem? And I told him, I said, why don't you go do something meaningful and something that would, I said, what's your family name? They'll tell me. I said, well, right now your family must be very ashamed of you because you're not carrying yourself with honor and dignity. And so I said, unless, they too do not keep contracts. And I'll say, oh, wow, my bad, I'm wrong. Your family never keeps contracts because they don't understand what treaties are and contractual obligations. They never keep contractual obligations. And they'll say, I'm honorable. I said, I don't see how. Did you not give an oath to secure my constitutional rights? And they'll say, yes, I did. But I also gave an oath to the state of. I said, the state of a subsidiary administrative corporation has nothing to do with the lawful that your government and the true oath that you have given. I said, I'll stand here and tell you to your face. And then one of the ladies who's standing in the street who asked me, do I have a job? She'd asked me that several times. I said, a job? What would I need a job for? This is my vast estate. This is my vast estate. I'll stop. I'll let Sister Anna Ede address it if you'll allow her to, what I meant by vast estate. And then I'll go and finish from there if I can. I'll
yes,
move forward.
That's fine. Yes, Anna Ede. I got a lot of questions, but please elaborate on what he's speaking on as far as the vast estate.
I'm sorry, as far as what?
As far as the vast estate that he just mentioned.
Oh, well, the vast estate is, it's actually what's called Northwest Amexem. Northwest Amexem is North America, South America, Central America, as well as the Atlantis Islands. Now, the Atlantis Islands is all of the islands in what is today called the Caribbean islands. So all of that, from one end of one tip all the way up to the top through to Canada, that is all the vast estate of the Moors of northwestern Mexico.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing, too, for people who are looking, because some people may be hearing this for the very, very, very first time, what would you advise them to really to start studying so that they can see how there's been a great game to pretty much put the veil over their eyes so that they would never really truly have knowledge of self?
And I want to just add something, because Funtayus mentioned our Muskego brothers and sisters, and I just want you to elaborate and let the people know who those brothers and sisters exactly are.
I'm sorry, you were asking.
You want me to put that? Okay, Islam. What I mean by mestizos, when the European came here, him raping the women, what they claim or call the black Indians, are what creates, along with what they call Mongoloid, but are actually the Manchurian people. They're mixing, creating the mestizos. You know, and it depends on, you know, the mix can change, it can vary, but these are what the mestizos, what we call modern day terms, Mexicans. You know, that's why I mentioned that, because, you know, I have a great deal of respect for a lot of my mestizo brothers and sisters and many of the people in South America, because they're willing to stand when we didn't have the knowledge to stand, when we're thinking, you know, like back in the 80s when Stevie Wonder and different artists talking about they weren't going to play Sun City, you know, they started talking about apartheid in South Africa. You know, we weren't even knowledgeable to the fact that apartheid was happening to us. But the mestizos knew of it, and they were standing on their square from start to finish. You know, like Che Guevara, you know, he's standing up. You know, he was standing up trying to teach the people about Viva la Moor. The Moor, you know, he's telling the people that we are Moors, and so they were trying to teach us our history of our vast estate and that we are one. There are many people that, you know, mestizo that grow up here, and they too become indoctrinated in the ignorance of the social system of supremacy that the European puts in place, and they lose their way. But a lot of them understand very well and are very down brothers and sisters, and who are willing to stand, you know, and just want just as much. They want equality as well, like during the French Revolution when the French were asking for liberty, equality, and fraternity. That's the same thing we want.
Right. I hear you on that.
So, definitely.
I hear you on that. And for everybody that's listening, if you're on the chat or online, you can call in direct at 858-357-8450. And I see that we do have a lot of people that are on the physical line, but they're listening. And if you have any comments, if you want any clarity on what was discussed, press option 1 and you'll be placed in a host queue. Going back to what you were speaking about as far as contracts, I think this is key. And one thing I want to highlight is what you had mentioned, Funtayus, about adding your steps. And even though, you know, it may be something as simple as a storage facility, and it may be something as simple as like a telephone bill. For some reason, and I would like for both of you to chime in on this, why is it that they try to make it, when you're dealing with people, they try to make it seem as if, like, you're not supposed to add steps or you can't do that to a contract. And I think about with dealing with real estate, it's just like commonplace. Or even if you're dealing with mergers and acquisitions or a partnership or whatever have you, there's always a situation where both parties come to the table and you pretty much list what your terms and your conditions are, and then from there you have a mutual agreement. Or if one party pretty much presents the contract, and if you're not in agreement, there's always that option. So if you all could just highlight on that as far as that's just like a basic protocol that I see that sometimes people just want to execute these unilateral contracts. Can you please just speak on that?
Islam, when I look at, when I'm dealing in contracts, I always set my stipulations. And even to the point where they may not even want to do business with me, they'll always try you, but there's a spiritual thing even to how they do it. Have you ever wondered why they need your signature? If they're criminal, they do what they want to anyway. It's a spiritual thing. They need your spiritual acquiescence. They need for you to render unto them. That's why it says render unto Caesar. Caesar needs for you to give up your rights. And if you don't give up your rights and you mean that, Caesar will respect you because rights, he doesn't have a choice. And so when you get to scratching things out, most of the agents who work for them, they might not be as educated as in the depths of jurisprudence and contract law, but they understand what they're doing. They understand that they're there to rob you. Many of them do. Many of them may not even understand how they're robbing you, but they recognize, again, that some skullduggery is taking place. You can scratch out things. You can fit it in at a later time. You can reserve your rights. I've reserved my rights multiple times where, I read the contract, I made a copy of it, took the original, and sometimes where they'll go behind the counter and take the original because they may know how you operate. And so I'll take what I can because I'm not going to go behind the counter and give them, the energy that they want to cause issues for me, like to have me accosted or kidnapped. And so what I'll do is I'll take the copy if I have to. Most of the time the original, like I said, I'll take it home and I'll send them back my stipulations. And again, I'll repeat this. I will CC it to so many people that you can't hide it. And that's why when Yahshua said, before you go to the magistrate, you got to reveal their nakedness and pull the skirt above their head. What I'm trying to tell you is, expose their corrupt nature, embarrass them. The more people you show that they're operating corrupt, the more people can see how they're operating business. Most of the others already know because they're all in bed together. But when you expose that nakedness, they look like, hey, whoa, you're messing with my finance. You better get your house in order because I can't rob these people over here if you messy over there in your house and how you operate affairs. That's how they're looking at it. And we try to complicate things, but it's not complicated. The European doesn't do anything complicated. He himself is not complicated. He's actually very slow once you get it. The European is operating off of, it was very simple. He's been robbing us because of lack of knowledge, because of keys, like Todd keeps telling you, he removed. It's easy to abuse somebody if they're missing valuable points. But once you get valuable points and you stand on that, he doesn't know how to deal with you, especially in your spirit if you stand firm and you don't ask him for anything, you demand it. And stand firm with it, not in a violent sense, not in a sense where, but don't get me wrong, in a sense that I'm willing to do what I have to do to stand on my square. Violence is the last. That's the lowest. That's the lowliest. That's reducing yourself to his level. That's when you get on the level of losing civilized principles. But everybody knows Moors can scrap. Moors know how to stand up for themselves. People fear us all the time, even now in our lowly state. Think about this. People fear us in our lowest state physically. They really do. Mostly they don't fear us mentally. They're starting to. They're starting to respect us. They're starting to respect us like a European Jew. I don't remember the comedian, but there's a comedian, European, very well known. He was giving this little skit, and I sent a copy of it to Sister N.I.E., and he said that he said he would rather harass a Jew on stage and accept them to come at him. He said, but I won't come at a Moor because I got to get a stronger legal team. That's exactly what he said. You can go on YouTube and find it. You sure can. You can go on YouTube and find it. So what I'll do is I'll find it, send you a copy, and I know you'll make sure everybody gets it. They're starting to respect us because they recognize the Moors who are standing honorably. I'm not talking to you dirty Moors. Dirty Moors, you can go over there with the European and meet the same fate that they're meeting because they're falling back to their proper status. They're reaching their proper status of Negro, like Todd said. I have never been a Negro. I have no part of a caveman, but I did civilize word he is to us. He's doing the things to us that he's doing because he's still in an uncivilized state. He really is. This is the same man that will scalp some people and then turn around and call these people he scalped savages. Somebody's confused, or maybe he understands exactly what he's doing, and he's just being himself. We have to start recognizing him being exactly who he is. Because if we don't do that, you're going to have a problem. Like I was on the phone with Sister Santasha, and then there was another sister on the phone who just got my spirit from the door because she was speaking about truth. And if she was in another time, she would be a general. She knows how to organize people. I'm talking about Elena. Listen to this sister with that beautiful accent coming from what they call the South. And she sits there and drops beautiful keys on you. Like she said to me, brother, I wrote so many people, so I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And everything that she said, that's not disdaining anything any other mother told me. Because mothers are mothers are mothers, especially when they're acting like a mother. You know, this mother was dropping some military jewels and how to look at them, how to view them, how to carry yourself with them, because they recognize that they are enemy, that they have an enemy. It's us who don't recognize we have an enemy. And when you recognize an enemy and you recognize having one, then you can start on that point of self-preservation. But until that time, we just, like Todd says, we're fodder to be eaten off of. We're the fuel for their fire. And so, I like to talk, so I'll back up a little bit and allow anyone else to take the floor if they want to speak, ask any question, and have Sister Anaï address some issues, because she was in with me on this from start to finish. She really was, and she has some valid and vital keys to help people to understand what property is and how to keep it.
Yes. And Anaï, what would you? Yes. What are some things that you would like to highlight in regards to everything that transpired with Funtayus?
Well, you know what? I can never stray far from study. I mean, Funtayus is an excellent example of how we all need to be studying. He has a massive library, and he's always in it, and he's always reading, and he's always studying. And everything that he has been able to do is a result of the studying that he has been doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that is the most important thing. That is the most important key. Funtayus is wealthy not because of the things he has. It is because of the wealth of knowledge he has. And he doesn't just have knowledge. He applies it. That is priceless. It's absolutely priceless. You can't get that anywhere. And this is what we all need to have. You know, what he's telling you is the actions that he was able to effectuate because of the due diligence that he has done in digging out and researching and utilizing and putting into action the information that he's found. And, you know, I mean, like, I can't say enough. I mean, he is the epitome of how we all need to be operating. He taught me a lot. And, you know, and I'm honored that he feels I taught him a lot, because we play off of it. We play off of each other. You know, if I need to brainstorm, I know that I can call Funtayus just like I know I can call Taj, just like I know I can call Rob. This is the kind of network we need to have for all of us. You know, we need to be studying so that we can all network together and come together and share the experiences that we're having. And then, you know, if two of us have an experience that, and then we go out and put different things into action and come back, that experience now, you know, it increases by 4. So then if we go out and we take that 4, that increases by 4, and then you're at 8, and you go out with those experiences and those increase by 8, that's 16. Exponential growth is like the most powerful tool that we can utilize individually and collectively. It is what is going to put us as a nation into critical mass. Critical mass is when enough people absorb the proper spirit and the proper energy that it takes off around the globe like wildfire. This is where we are at, and this is what we need more and more people to do so that we can speed up that critical mass. I mean, just talking about it, it just, sends chills down my spine. My hair is standing up on the back of my neck, and it's not because I'm cold. Because it's so absolutely powerful. And, and like I said, it's more of us. And I have to say, there are, in fact, more Moors who are waking up and they are putting it down. And I'm so absolutely proud. I mean, I just can't wait to see what tomorrow brings because, it's absolutely exciting.
It sure is. It's a beautiful thing. And one thing I have to say that is key, too, is that after studying and getting the knowledge and when your eye is opening up more, it's like you can't just stand by and let things happen that are incorrect. Like if you notice somebody is being colorable, if you notice, and this is like even in small, minor situations, not even dealing with, the police, just within, if it's something dealing with the schools, if it's something in the Metro PCS store when somebody is skipping people over in a line because they think that they have some type of status and they deserve to act or, be and do certain things. So it's hard to sit back and let things just happen, and or as they say, what do they call it, the okie doke? And just fall for the okie doke when you know that no, this is not just. We do have a caller coming in. Let's see here. Caller 111, welcome to Civil Alert. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Hello?
Peace. Welcome to Civil Alert.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes, you're live.
Asher?
Yes. Peace. Is this
how you
Cujo?
doing? Huh?
Is this Cujo?
No. This is Brother Douglas.
Oh, Islam, brother. I'm sorry. You sound like this other brother I know.
Okay.
Welcome. Yes.
I'd like to say greetings and salutations to your guests. Mm-hmm. How you doing tonight? I came in kind of late, so I missed part of the conversation. I was wondering, is that brother that was from Utah? How did he get to Utah, and why is he still there?
Islam, brother, that was the Idaho territories.
Idaho, okay.
As I said before, maybe you missed it, I like agriculture. I grew up on ranches, riding horses. My family had a lot of property in early stages, but as they got older, the younger generation couldn't wait to sell the property off from who held on to it. But we moved to the city. I spent a lot of time in Oakland, places like that, because my father was always on television a lot and around celebrities. So we moved around a lot, but I wound up in a place called Union City, and I got myself in trouble for things I did. And just being real, I was doing things I knew I shouldn't have been doing and involving myself in areas where I shouldn't have been involving myself in. And so my family ended up moving. My father said, "What do you want me to do to correct this, to help you out?" I said, "Well, honestly, man, I want to move to the country, and I want to be around, agriculture." So we moved to a place called Tracy, California, and that was one of the greatest things he could have ever done for me and for my family as a whole, because while I was there, I walked up to a European at school, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have any fear of learning. And see, a big picture in that is we have to get past. I'm going to give you an example. A European, a man will come around us, or a woman, and learn all of our skills and tactics and go make finance off of it. And we'll call him honky, peckerwood, white boy, white girl, and he'll just sit there and tolerate it, and next thing you know, he's got a record deal. Or he's making something that he's learned from us. And I'll sit there and I would be around the European where I walked into a European guy and I said, you know, his name was Brian. If I'm going to tell you, I said, hey, man, you look to be the king of the group over here. Could you teach me about, you know, riding a horse and agriculture? He said, I'm prejudiced. I said, well, that's fine. I don't care. And he said, well, I use the N-word, so use whatever you want to use. And like, that ain't anything to do with me. I want to learn how to ride a horse. I said, I want to learn how to drive a tractor and anything else you can teach me. And so they cracked their jokes and saying whatever. I didn't look at myself as no sellout because I knew I wasn't. I'm over there spying and learning information and learning what I knew. These people got all the agriculture and the land that they stole, so they must be doing something. And so I said, I want to be over there and find out what they're doing so I can take it back to my people like you see me doing now. And I said, you know, you hear me doing now. I was like, you know, let me find out what they're doing because they send infiltrators into our areas all the time. I was there. Let them be in their most natural state. Let them crack their jokes. It has nothing to do with me. And so I'm sitting there learning how to drive a tractor, how to reload, how to do this, how to make this, how to use a lathe machine, how to do many of things. They taught me a lot of things about finance. I got to be around people who were billionaires, you know, even though it's stolen wealth. I got to be around people who were oil men, people who made barrels for rifles, all kind of things. And I learned a lot. Not everybody of the European persuasion were evil people and dishonest. Many of them were very honorable that my spirit allowed me to be around. That's why I wound up in Idaho is because I like outdoors. I like the land. And if you want to go to the land, I'm not trying to be around Europeans per se. I want to be around the beautiful land. And so if you want to be around the beautiful land, and you'll be surprised, when you live on acreage, you have peace.
Yes,
they don't come out much. That's why I'm out here. You know, my family, like I said, was from the Tennessee territories, and we like being around agricultural land and being around horses, cattle, and different things of this nature, how to plant things, you know, growing things, and just the idea that agriculture is king. When the European told you cotton was king, that's what he meant, because agriculture is king. We're so arrogant, we won't even take the cotton out of an aspen bottle. You know, and so he tricked us with our own arrogance that we won't even look at agriculture. You know, if you feed the world, you know, you're running things. That's why the European was able to run things so long. That's why he would try to burn our crops when we start growing crops, because he's trying to keep us away from that which gives us power, that which gives us spiritual connection. And I appreciate you asking that question. It's very important, and I almost forgot it because I wanted to tell people how I wound up in Idaho, because you don't know how many people said, man, why are you in Idaho? And Idaho is beautiful, pristine land. That's why you think the European is there. He's there because it has so much water, so many elk, deer, so many wild pheasants. Idaho has so much game fish and anything else that you can imagine that belongs to the Aboriginal and indigenous people, because we have all rights to all flora and fauna.
So they still got free federal land that you can claim, right?
You know what? I'm gonna say this. You can claim it once you're on point, man. I wouldn't go and tell you just to claim anything. You got to study, bro. You really do. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I won't put you in harm's way because I don't know you, and don't take me as weak for saying this, but I love you. Any injury that comes to you comes to me if you are honest and just man. You understand what I'm saying? Any injury that comes to you comes to me, and I have a problem with that. If you have a daughter or a son and this European causes injury to you, I have a problem with that. Because if I don't have a problem with that, the same thing is going to be fall upon my children, which is all part of the same nation, whether we know it or not. They're looking at us as the same people. You know.
Well, I'm dealing with a situation here that I've put up with for a while, and I got to step to it quick. So I'm dealing with my own situation, and I'm going to stand on my square as soon as possible. What I really wanted to ask you was, what did you do about your driver's license situation?
Well, not my driver's license. Their driver's license.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
I don't have one, and I will not get one.
Okay.
I don't need one. No one's going to make me do what I don't do. Now, I worked on ranches for so long. One time I lived with my uncle. I moved to my aunt's house. I was helping her out repairing some things. So my uncle took me to get a driver's license. I was about 27, and he took me to get it. And, and I really never had one before. And I had driven around all over the rodeos, because I was in the rodeo circuit. And I had driven around everywhere. I mean, you can't imagine how many states, because when you go to rodeos, whether you're roping or you riding bareback horses or whatever. That's what I did. I rode bareback horses and I roped. So we were everywhere, and I drove. Couldn't drive worth the crap in the beginning, but I still was driving. And, when they pull me over, they'll say, do you have a driver's license? I didn't know any better. I said I didn't know I needed one. And so they usually left me alone. It's a spirit. It's an energy. I didn't know I had to have one of these things. I felt like, I knew about the Constitution. I felt like no one can make you do anything. And they'll ask me, man, this is the police. They'll be like, man, you really don't have a driver's license? I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm like, I didn't know that I needed one. They're like, man, just go on. These would be Europeans. They're like, man, just go on. They might laugh or something. Say, man, you know what? I really respect you. And I'll say, well, I appreciate that, and I'll go about my business because, I just didn't feel that I had one. I mean, I needed to have one. That one time I had it, maybe the spirit of the universe didn't want me to have it because as soon as I wound up in a place called Patterson, California, which I know all cities, boroughs, townships, they're all corporations, but I'm just doing it so you can understand what I'm talking about. They just reached it. They took it from me. They confiscated it from me, and so I was happy that they did because I didn't want it in the first place. I never showed it. I didn't feel that I had to show it. If I wanted to buy something, cashing the check, I never had a bank account. So, I had one bank account. And that was a place called Bonneville. There he is, Bonneville, Arkansas. There's another Bonneville, and that's the truth.
Wow.
Where Walmart comes from. That's where I had a bank account. And since somebody had to co-sign for me because I didn't have a driver's license. Somebody was like, the guys I work for, Danny and Jamie Browns, they signed for me. Like, man, why don't you get a driver's license and so you can, operate? I was like, and they were cashing my checks for me. No different than Mestizo brothers and sisters or people from South America come here. They figure out a way to get to their notes. You don't need this stuff. It's just we need to think outside the box. And so once I didn't know any better because I grew up country as country can be, so I just didn't know any better. I didn't want to know any better. And I'm glad that I grew up the way I did because I felt like I'm not obligated to have this and you can't make me. That's how I look at it. Even to this day, I just recently was pulled over by a police who was not an officer, who was portraying himself to be an officer fraudulently named Tracy Bugsby over here in what they call Calaveras County. He pulled me over. And when I start quoting Title 18, Section 1651, I like to give love and honors to Brother Bobby Ill. He's past form, but I learned that from him from watching him on video. I never met the brother, but he left his spirit here no different than Shakespeare leaves his language. And so I look at it from that standpoint. When I start talking about these issues, you can go on YouTube and see some videos under Made Tangible, and you'll hear me. A lot of people call me, and this is not me saying it, a lot of people I know call me Show and Prove because I don't talk about it, I go and do it. And so that's just me. I'm always doing because I don't have that fear because I've accepted the consequences that may come from me standing up. And there are consequences. Whether you like them or not, there are consequences that come with standing up. But I feel that there are greater injurious consequences that come from not standing up. And so I appreciate your question, brother.
I have one last question for Sister Sankasha.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know of any Moorish science temples in the North Carolina territories? Any good ones that's doing good work?
Yeah, I don't know of any offhand. I have to say I don't. Anna Eid, would you know of anyone or any temples?
I don't know of any.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know of one, brother. I know of one for Islam. I know of one.
Where?
It's yourself. It's you.
Yes, sir.
Islam.
It's you. Islam.
It starts here.
Just keep a good spirit, man. It's you. If you're good and hard with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and those points are with you, and you carry them with you, you always will. You are the temple, brother. You got that from Sister Anna Eid. That comes also from Buddha. That comes also from Yeshua, the man they call Jesus, and all of the divine prophets. It's you, brother.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a temple, and I don't have a nationality card. I didn't mean to bring it up that way, but, you do what you do because you are who you are. Chinaman is a Chinaman. A person from Japan is Japanese. A person from Bangladesh is from Bangladesh. They are who they are because they know who they are. That's the spirit, brother. You are the temple. And like I said, I appreciate your call. I don't know everything, but I'm going to give you the truth from my spirit, how I can bring it.
All right, then. Hey, what was that on YouTube? you mentioned? You said
you mean made my channel on YouTube? It's called Made Tangible. MADE Tangible. One word. Made Tangible. Bringing things into fruition, like Todd always talks about. And I hope that in speaking to you, I hope I don't come across arrogant. I really pray that I don't, man. I hope I come across as a brother who's sincere and hopes that he's doing some good to uplift the people, at least from what I've learned.
Nah, bro, you sound like a sincere person standing on this square. Natural person standing on this square.
Thank you, brother, and much love to you, and I mean that. I really do. Peace and love to you, man.
Peace and love back. And everybody else.
Peace. Have
a good night.
Have a good night now, brother. Wow. Now, you had mentioned the title. That was Title 18. What was that section? 651, if I'm not mistaken?
Title 18, Section 1651. And, again, I'd like to give props to Brother Bobby Hill, who passed for him. That's where I learned about that from. Title 18, Section 1651. I don't know of other works that the brother. I've seen a few videos on the brother, but his spirit of what I saw did me some good. And I feel that he can do some other more as good from the teachings that I saw that were up on YouTube, about these particular things. And I went further to research it myself, about piracy being lifetime imprisonment. And there's another brother on there with the two who's also delivering that information hard and heavy. Title 18, Section 1651, they're talking about the piracy, and trying to rob vessels, because we are vessels. Coming from other nations. I learned that from, I knew I was a vessel, but you'll hear a lot of that talk spoken about with Brother Alim Bey. He likes to break that down about what a vessel is and the spirit. I like to mention all Moors, honestly, whom I learned from. Right now, I like to take the time out to say, I don't know necessarily these brothers per se, but the videos and works that I went online to see what they were talking about, I'm only talking about specific things that I learned from them. I learned from about calling 911 and putting it into the record. Todd's mentioned it as well, but I learned that from Brother Sabir Bey. I'm going to have to mention that. I'm going to have to mention Brother Bobby Hill again, Brother Todd Tariq Bey, Alim Bey, because I don't want to exclude everybody, because we need to start acting like a family, and I have no beef with anybody. I learned from all types of people. I learned from I've learned things about the myth of slavery from Valahara. These are the people that taught me. I'm just going to be honest, meaning whether they knew it or not, I learned from them. And I will not discredit them from what I learned from them. Now, I'm not going to say that everybody acts honorably. I don't know anything about their dishonorable acts or anything otherwise. I'm just telling you about what I learned from these people. Watching Taj and Sabir and Brother Anis, they're on there talking about the importance of critical thinking. These are videos I'm pretty sure we're all watching. This is where I learned who I was. This was important to me. I always knew I wasn't a Negro or black or colored. I felt it offensive. But these people gave me valuable keys, and I know they went to Taj a lot of time to learn. I went to Taj online. I don't know if you have them here tonight. Do you have Natasha, do you have Taj with us? If you do,
no, he wasn't on. No.
Well, that's fine, but I'm pretty sure, Taj taught a lot of people learning about the Moorish science from another RV Bay publications. If you want to know where to start, going to RV Bay publications was a pivotal point for me. I used to look at, Robert Menard. He had a lot of information. I used to look at Winston Strout and people like this, but there was always something eerie and scary and spooky about what they delivered. And somewhere in there, I knew that they were not telling the full truth. But when I saw Brother Todd, his brother was delivering the truth. Yes, he was. Just like the other show you had, Brother Abdullah. And that brother was breaking down etymology, and I respect him dearly for it.
Yeah.
I think I get some videos from you, Abdullah, but you break down etymology on another level, and I have nothing but respect for you, brother. Seriously. Sister Raj Mariah, I have nothing but love for this sister, where I only saw her on TV, on the YouTube, on my television screen, and speaking to her on the phone on occasion. And when I got to speak to her, I lit up like the Empire State. where I felt good about myself. I mean, I'm telling you the truth. I felt like a little child who had been given free reign to just run. And I'm like, wow, I get to talk to these people who are out there, putting in their work. I will not discredit, remove, or take anything from you. Anything I learned from anyone, I'm going to tell you I learned it from you, and I'm proud that I did, and I carry that with me to my grave. Seriously. And I'm going to tell everybody that. Santasha, I learned something from you. I learned the same thing from you that I learned from my father. Just as much as answers are important, questions are important too. And you ask the most beautiful questions, and I appreciate you for that because it makes people think. Like Noble Drew Ali said, I'm here if I could only get you to start thinking again, because he needs people to think for themselves. If you have people that think for you, there's nothing you can do to help us right now. You still are needing to help yourself, and helping us requires you thinking for yourself, and that is helping yourself. Islam.
Yes, Islam. Yes, thank you. So, in closing, Anna Eid, what would be your remarks?
My remarks. My closing remarks is always the same. Study, study, study. It is the one thing that the Prophet said. He repeated it 3 times. It's the most important thing. If you study, 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 you will rise in degrees. Islam.
Islam. Can I say something?
Islam.
I want to add on to that or piggyback on that. Study, 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 and apply what you study. Seriously.
Islam. So there we have it. A thorough testimony from a true Mormon. I thank you for sharing that. This has been eye-opening, and I'm pretty sure many people will start going in and really looking at things on a deeper level. Because, in your situation, just like how some people may have this idea that, no, this person is, quote-unquote, Jewish, so they're superior to me, or this person is a Mormon, they're superior to me. What I'm coming to find out is that when you really, 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 like you said, gain knowledge of self, and then when you know the roots of what somebody is building their construct on, it removes all of those little falsehoods and those things that they've been trying to carry on and pull the wool over your eyes with. So I thank you all for being on tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And everybody out there, at Civil Alert Rising, the goal always is to be informative, engaging, and third eye opening. If you have any questions or if you have suggestions for future topics that you'd like to cover, please send an email to news@civilalertradio.com. Again, that's news@civilalertradio.com. And we just have a caller that's coming in right now. Before we close out, welcome to Civil Alert. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
This is Elena from Hull.
Oh, good. It's loving, Elena.
I'm loving the information, and thank you so much for just sharing with the audience. And I've been learning so much. That's why I've been quiet. So I just wanted to thank you and Anna Marie, and always thank you, Santasha. So I just don't have anything to say. I'm just learning. I'm ear hustling right now.
Brother, Islam, I hope it did not offend you by bringing you up when you were not there.
Oh, no. When I'm quiet, I'm learning. I'm ear hustling right now.
If you need any help from me to do with anything, I'm here for you. If I have it to give, you have my energy. Islam.
Thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Peace and love, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll connect back with you on Tuesday night. Civil Alert Rising. Wow. Good night, everybody. It's
Good night.
Peace.
Peace.